I'm living out of a carry-on backpack for a few years now, and thanks to this channel, I had the opportunity to test many different bags. But even though I have not found my perfect bag yet, the search continues. I wanted to do a video about travel backpacks because I think there are a few certain features that many of them have in common that may influence if the bag is a good fit for you or not. So today I would like to share some general observations I had about travel backpacks. The first thing that may influence if a bag is correct for you or not is the way it opens. There are lots of different bags with different ways to access your gear. For example, there are some bags that you can only fill from the bottom, some bags that you can open all the way to access all your gear, clamshell. But in my opinion, the best option for you depends on how you use your bag once you arrive at your destination, especially if you are someone who unpacks or if someone who does not, who just lives out of the backpack. So for example, my husband loves his backpack. It has a very big clamshell opening. And once we arrive at our destination, he opens the bag and he unpacks everything and puts the bag away. I am the complete opposite of my husband. I don't like to unpack. I usually live out of the bag. I like it very much that when it's time to move on, that I just have to zip up my bag and I'm out the door. So for me personally, a bag like my husband's bag, who needs to be open and needs that much surface area when it's open, is very impractical because usually hotel rooms are small and there is just no way to really put this thing somewhere. So I prefer the bags that have more of a big lid that I can fold behind, so I don't need that much surface area. And then I have kind of like a big bucket that I can use like a drawer at home to just keep my things inside. The second characteristic that may influence if you like a bag or not is the amount of organization. And this is totally up to personal preference. Here again, my husband and me are complete opposite. I personally prefer to have a lot less organization in my bag and just use my own pouches and packing cubes to organize things. Everson, on the other hand, prefers to have a more organized bag. The only thing Everson and me can agree on is that usually we want at least 2 water bottle holders, which already eliminates a lot of the travel backpacks. So in my opinion, it makes sense to consider your way of packing and how much organization you want in a bag, because, and that brings me to the next point, more organization in a bag usually means more weight. And especially for travel backpacks, there are just so many extremely heavy, almost over-engineered bags in my opinion. So many bags that I have tested over the years had compartments that I never even used or did not have the correct gear to really put into those predetermined organizing areas. So in my opinion, think about how much of this organization you really need, and when in doubt, I personally would always opt for a bag with less organization just to save the weight. Maybe this is less of a problem when you, for example, live in the US and only travel in the US, where you have on many airlines no limit when it comes to your hand luggage. When you travel to Europe or in Asia, for example, we usually have a limit of 7 to 8 kilos, and then if the bag already weighs 2 kilos or more, well, let's put it this way, I prefer to have the weight for my stuff and not for the bag. Another consideration I feel like you should keep in the back of your mind is how mobile you want to be during your trip. Are you moving from place to place and maybe taking public transport? Or are you just landing in a place, hopping in the taxi, going to the hotel, and then you stay there for the entire duration until it's time to fly home? I feel like if you want to move around a lot, then I would also always go for a more lightweight bag. Another feature about travel backpacks that I usually consider is how waterproof it is. And I think this probably depends a little bit on the destination, but I feel like it's more important with hiking backpacks when you're actually spending outdoors for days and weeks at a time. And I don't really think it's really necessary for a travel bag. At least I have traveled with a non-waterproof bag for years without any problems. Because waterproofing a bag just makes it heavy and also more expensive. What I used to do with my non-waterproof bag, if I really got into the rain, is I would just grab a trash bag and then just put all my stuff inside the bag, inside the trash bag, and then the bag would get wet, but all my things inside stayed dry. And I would just go to the hotel and nicely ask them if they had a trash bag for me, and it was never a problem. So unless you really go to a destination where you're expecting a downpour every day and you know you will be outside all the time without having the chance to protect your bag from the elements, then yes, maybe consider it. Otherwise, if you just go on a normal trip, maybe you can save yourself the money and the weight. The next thing I noticed about travel backpacks is about the carry comfort. And I find that it's surprisingly difficult to find a backpack that is comfortable to carry. To me, that does not really come as a surprise because honestly, we all have different body types, we're different genders, we have different sizes, we are different heights, we have wider or smaller shoulders. But there is usually only one backpack or one version of that travel backpack, and that backpack has to fit us all. There are really not many ways to adjust the bag to your body, basically only the strap length and maybe a chest strap, maybe a hip belt. I feel like hiking backpacks are already a step ahead and often offer versions for women, but travel backpacks usually just have the same model for men and women. So in my opinion, it's very important to test the backpack for a while if you can, with the intended weight inside, to really see if it's a good match for your body. Had to move because of the sun. The next feature I think is important to consider is if you want a hip belt or not. I'm personally not the biggest fan from hip belt, even though they may come in handy for the short durations where I carry my bag. Then they're just usually in the way all the other time, when traveling, when putting it in the airplane, when dealing with it in the hotel room. I find the hip belts are always a little bit an annoyance. Then I really prefer it when they are detachable. And for me, I'm quite comfortable carrying a bag without, especially when the bags are smaller or more lightweight. But maybe once you have a large bag, like towards the end of the carry-on size limits, like 40 liters around, or your bag gets extremely heavy, then it may make sense to consider adding a hip belt. And now I have 3 more things that are not necessarily features of the bag, but a few more things that I think are important to consider. So the first thing are guarantees and warranties, and I really wanted to address this because these things always float around in the internet without questioning or without really putting things into perspective. The thing is that many of the lifetime guarantees of the most popular travel backpack brands are often pretty much worthless outside of the US. So for example, Osprey in the USA, they have this almighty guarantee, which seems like for almost forever they will fix your bag for you. In the European Union, they only give you a guarantee or a warranty on the manufacturing defects and only within 2 years. Dakine or Dakine, similar, they have a very great warranty within the US, and here in Europe, my husband's zipper broke off his bag, which was clearly a manufacturing defect the way it broke. Unfortunately, it was a few days after the 2-year warranty ended, and so they even refused to fix a zipper. On the other hand, for example, cheaper brands like Decathlon here in Europe, they have great warranties for us. For Austrians, it's, for example, 10 years on their backpacks. But again, the warranties may depend in which country you purchase the bag. So if the warranty is important to you, then always make sure to read the terms and the conditions of the brands that apply to your country before you buy. The next thing to consider is the specifications and the surprising amount when those specifications are wrong. I am regularly amazed in how little effort brands really put into describing their products properly. Most of the time we only get some pictures from the outside of the bag and not even from the inside, and then we need to do additional research or watch YouTube videos to actually see what the bag looks like inside. And regularly the specs that the manufacturers share on the website are not even correct, especially when it comes to weight and volume. So I just wanted to share 2 examples that I own. And the first one is the Osprey Arcane Duffel that I already did a video about. It was a travel bag that I traveled with for a long time. And I did that video now almost 2 years ago. And to this day, I still receive lots of messages and emails from people asking if I ever ran into any problems with this bag. The reason for that is that on their own website, Osprey claims that this bag is 18.5 times 12.2 times 10.6 inches, which is roughly 47 times 31 times 27 centimeters, which is a little bit too big for a carry-on bag. Now, this bag is only a 30-liter bag. There is no way that this thing is 27 centimeters deep. This is 27 centimeters. And when I hold this next to the bag, you will see that the bag is barely 17 centimeters. And I totally get it that mistakes can happen, but to be honest, they just released a new version of this bag. But again, on the website, they put the exact same dimensions. Another measurement that seems very random to me are the liters, so the volumes of the bag. As an example, I just have two sling bags here. The first one is the Bellroy Light Sling, which I really enjoy using, as you may see, but it's marketed as a 7-liter bag. Now for me, this does not feel nowhere close to a 7-liter bag. I would guess it's probably half that size. And when I compare it to the Peak Design outdoor sling that I recently got, which is also marketed as a 7-liter sling, this one just feels much, much bigger. So all those things sometimes feel very random to me. So in my opinion, always take all those specs with a grain of salt and really do your own research. And if you order a bag online, just make sure that you can return it easily. And the last thing I learned about travel backpacks is to really not to overthink it. I mean, a backpack alone will never make or break your trip. You actually don't even need a dedicated travel backpack if you don't travel all the time and you already have a comfortable, suitable bag from the dimensions that you use for school or for hiking, then just go ahead and use this one. There's really no need to have a dedicated travel backpack. So these are my 5 cents about travel backpacks and just some common observations that I had about them, living out of them for a few years now. If you like this video, I guess you would also like the one that I have with more general observations about packing cubes. I will link it right here. If you like this video, consider subscribing to my channel or maybe even subscribing to my monthly newsletter. And other than that, thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!